Okay, starting off from the last class, which is why map a tool. We're going to be looking at the other set of tools that are available within 3D Studio Max. And these tools are universal to all 3D applications. So if, for example, you get to a studio or you get to an office and they tell you we don't have 3D Studio Max, we use Maya here, or we don't use Maya here, we use Cinema 4D, the tools are the same. So I'm going to quickly look at the other tools. Now I want us to approach this knowing fully well that we have some tools that we've mapped out already. So looking at those tools quickly, because I'll be using those tools, I covered that in the previous lecture, and please, you need to go over it again if at all you don't know the tools. So starting with those tools now, I'm going to look at those tools. We have extrude. We have the tool called extrude. It has been mapped to Shift plus E. And we have insert edge loop. Insert edge loop has been mapped to Alt plus K. Convert to editable loop. Convert to editable poly. Poly has been mapped to 5 on my keypad. So these are the tools we've covered. So in this new lecture, what we're going to be looking at are other tools. So, and we also be mapping them out. So if you just try to have all this crammed up so that you can have access to them. So let's get started. So looking at where we are presently, I have my geometry, which is just standing right here in front of me. So I need to look into those other tools. So let's get here first and look at where those tools actually are. The first of them is when we have our faces selected. So let me quickly write that out also for you, so you would be in the same loop. We'll cover this also in the previous lecture, so if at all you've missed any lecture, please just go to the YouTube channel and find precise lecture. We have for vertex or vertices, we have it mapped to 1 on your keyboard. So 1 is for vertex, 2 is for edges. I also explained all of this in the last lecture, previous lecture. 3 is for boundary. 4 is for faces, or some software simply just call it polygon. Polygon. This is why, by the way. And 5 is for element. So here we have the hotkeys you will need to get all around the geometries component. These are called components of your geometry. They call all of this the component. So let me quickly use my helps to recall all of these guys. We call them their components of your geometry. So your geometry has 5 basic components within it. So these are the components, and you must be able to access any one of them whenever you want to perform a particular function. Now, for example, the extrude tool has a set of functions that work with it. The boundary tool has some set of functions that work with it, the edges and stuff like that. So every component of the geometry has its own function. Now let's quickly get to this. Now if I let's see this. The vertex is this guy that's air. So we have four vertices. So vertices around this place. So the vertex. So then you have the edges. Let's go to a blue tool. We'll have the edges. This is the edge here. This line you're looking at is the edge. Is the guy joining the points together. That is the edge. So we have four of the edges here. So good. Then the face, which is the face or the polygon, is this lovely guy we have here in the center. This guy here, all of this space is called the face. Now the component is the entire geometry itself. This entire geometry is a component. So the boundary is the only tool I've not covered yet. So let me quickly show you where the boundary is. So I go out, I go to my face here, take this face and delete this face. So this becomes a boundary. So if I go to my tree now and I press this, you can see this is a boundary. Now these are still edges. They are still edges, very much they are edges. Well, because they are all connected together, they form a network of edges called a boundary. Now you will look at it, okay, so where's the component, or where's this guy? Now let me show you where this guy is. Now if I go to my face mode, which is 4, I have all of this selected. I hold down my control key and have this selected. I go to my move tool, hold down my shift key and drag. So I've created a sub object and I say to element, you see, to element. So I say okay, it's an element. So these two objects here, they are part of the same geometry. So this is a component of the entire geometry. This is also a component. So if I press 5 on my keyboard now, I have two components make up this geometry. So it's a geometry that has parts that are not connected to each other. So this is a geometry, this is another geometry. But at the end of the day, it's still, if you press 1 on your keyboard or 1 again, you get back to, you can see this is a geometry. It has two components in it, but it is a geometry. So those are the components. I just need to run through that again so that you can really master it. I really want my students to always learn and be at the very best of their peak, and I've been able to do that for a lot of companies in Nigeria as much as possible. Even studios like Anthill, I have a lot of guys working there, and Orange FX, quite a lot of advanced engineering consortiums, quite a lot of studios and corporate environments. I really want you to learn and master this, so please take note of the components I've mentioned, and see you in the next lecture.